Hi, welcome back. Um, I am Chava, life coach and practitioner of Chinese medicine. I am yet again experimenting with adding some graphics to these videos, and I am in fact reusing the same amazingly well done and very aesthetic Canva creation that I used last time because it's relevant again and I really didn't want to have to make another one. Um, if this is your first time tuning in, hi, I am here answering questions. Kind of a Dear Abby thing, but I am answering questions based on my experience with Chinese medicine, with holistic Chinese psychology, with classical Chinese personality types, and my experience working with people inside and outside of the clinic, mostly talking about emotions and how we can deal with them or relationships between people. Those are most of the questions I've been asked so far. If you have a question, feel free to email or leave a comment or however you want to get in touch, and I will add you to the list. So today's question is from a YouTube subscriber, and their question is, why do we cry? Because of emotions. They understand why we cry if we get wind in our eyes, or if we've got something in our eyes that our body is trying to clear out. But why is crying a reaction to different emotional states? Which is a fascinating question. I looked in a bit to the history in the literature of Chinese medicine, and it turns out that people have been talking about this for a couple thousand years. It's mentioned in the Suwen, which is part of the original canon of Chinese medicine, one of the first written records we have of people asking questions and trying to find the answers to them. I admit I am not a sufficiently good scholar to understand what all of the implications were of the discussion in the Suwen. They talked about the tears that are caused from grief or from sadness being a result of an imbalance between the spirit that lives in the heart and the willpower or the drive to survive and to succeed that lives in the kidneys. Excuse me. And that when the body or when the person is in a state of extreme emotional stress, there is a disconnect between the heart and between the willpower, and that because the willpower is connected to the kidneys, which are connected to the regulation of fluids in the body, and the heart is connected to the eyes, that both of these together can cause water to leak out of the eyes. So again, I am not a sufficiently good scholar. I did not have a good enough translation to really follow through the intricacies of the discussion, but that is, roughly speaking, the sort of answer that we get when we look at it from a Chinese perspective. In Chinese medicine, each of the sensory organs is linked to a spirit that lives in the body, in a different part of the body. And so the eyes are considered the openings of the heart, where the spirit that lives in the heart is the closest to a personal soul in the Chinese conception, and that is the spirit that experiences joy. Joy dwells within the heart. So when we're crying from happiness, it's just because our heart is getting too full and we need to relieve the pressure somehow. And since the heart opens to the eyes are the windows of the heart, then relieving pressure from the heart can cause the tears to come out of the eyes. Which is interesting because that would explain why when we're crying from happiness, it tends to be, at least in my experience, a purely it's just crying from the eyes. It's not like when you're really upset and you also end up with your nose all stuffy and like all of the orifices of the face getting blocked. So crying from joy or from happiness or from laughter it's a very it's very focused on the eyes, and that is all about the emotion of joy, and that's relieving kind of the pressure from the heart. Now, when we cry because of grief or because of sadness, that is connected to the spirit that dwells in the lungs. Now, the lungs are responsible both for regulating the flow of energy throughout the body, right? Because the oxygen that we take in when we're breathing is it's what we get our energy from, right? If you think about the biological processes of producing energy in the mitochondria, it's all oxygen. And if we're living our everyday lives, that's an aerobic process. It requires oxygen. The oxygen is the source for energy, and so the lungs are the beginning of the energy flow in the body. And the lungs also, in the Chinese physiological philosophy, you could say, help regulate fluid in the body, because the movement of the lungs is very closely connected with the beating of the heart, and the two need to be regulated together. And when you see problems with fluid regulation in heart failure, for example, then you will tend to have issues in the chest and with breathing. And so, for all those reasons, the traditional Chinese medicine connects the lungs to regulation of fluid. So the lungs are obviously connected to our breathing passages. They're connected to our nose. They're connected to fluids. And so when we're crying because of sadness, we'll get the tears coming out. That's the dysregulation of fluid in the body. But we also get the stuffed up nose and the awful snottiness and all of the fun that comes along with that. And so that was more about the sinuses getting filled up and trying to relieve pressure from them in the Chinese perspective. Fear in the Chinese system, or the feeling of extreme stress, is connected to the adrenal glands or to the kidneys. They don't really distinguish between them. The adrenal glands have many, many different functions because they release different hormones into the body, but they all have to do with maintaining homeostasis or with reacting to stress. So one of the things that the body does when we're very stressed, when we're scared, is it makes us want to relieve ourselves of unnecessary burdens, right? So this is why sometimes people, when they're very scared, they pee, or they feel the need to pee. It's because the body is trying to lighten itself as much as possible, make sure that we don't have anything unnecessary to worry about, that we're ready to run or to fight if necessary. And so the body's reaction of releasing fluid in order to free us up to react to anything that's coming is, as far as I have been able to find, an explanation for the tears that come from an acute stress, like a shock. And then when we move on to the emotions that are associated with the spectrum of anger, the frustration, anger, the reaction to feelings maybe of being humiliated or degraded, those all have to do with the spirit that lives in the liver. It's the spirit of our imagination and our creativity and our drive to create and to do new things, because these are all things that will block our creative ability and our ability to progress and to go forward and to take action. And so the liver is also associated with the eyes in a slightly different way than the heart. Whereas the eyes are the opening of the heart. The eyes are, when we look into someone's eyes, we see the reflection of the spirit that lives in the heart. The liver in Chinese medicine is responsible for nourishing the eyes. It's responsible for maintaining the eyes. And so when we see problems with vision, with our ability to look ahead, to see the future, to plan our progress forwards, then that's connected with an issue, some sort of issue with the spirit of the liver and its ability to nourish the body and to perform all of its various jobs. And so, again, when we're feeling angry, when we're feeling frustrated when we are feeling attacked, then that emotion fills up the liver. The liver needs to release the pressure, and so it can also release pressure through crying, through the eyes, as it were. So those are the various different reasons that we can cry due to emotions according to traditional Chinese physiology. So I hope that was relevant to your question. I know it's maybe not just one answer. Oh, we cry because, we cry when we're emotional because X. If I needed to sum it up into one, just one reason, that I would say that we cry in order to release emotion, because it's something that causes movement and it releases something from the body. Because when we're getting overwhelmed with an emotion, or when we're stuck in an emotion, what we need sometimes is we need some sort of release. We need to let something out. We need to let it go. And so this is a physiological expression of our need to just let the emotion flow through us and to let it be released and to go on as a movement of energy, rather than as something that is stuck in our body and is preventing us from moving forwards. Okay, so there you